Hey everyone. I want to talk about records because they mean more to me than CDs or digital downloads. I really like the Decemberists, and this is a good example of why I like vinyls because you can see it's got this great big photography. It's very interactive. These records are, there's often great artwork, great photography, and a large canvas to put it on. I really like blues because it's almost like venting. You don't have to worry so much about the music, unless you want to, but it's so simple if you want it to be, and you can just kind of get things off your chest and say what's on your mind. This is one of my all-time favorite bands. As Cities Burn, I actually didn't like them for a while. I tried listening to them, and there was like one song I liked, but I heard some good things about them, and I thought I'd give them a try, and I actually had to listen to the album several times through before I started to like it, and then I got into their other album, which is this one, and something happened. Something just kind of clicked, because I didn't really like their guitar, but then after a while I started hearing these nuances in the music that, as they became familiar to me, I really liked them, and the words were really powerful. I also like this about records, is that you can get them in this kind of greenish color, or any variety of colors and styles, and this translucency. It's fascinating to me. The lyrics of this album were very raw and emotional and contemplative. He had been thinking a lot about what he believed, and is a lot about his frustrations in life and the things he's gone through, and I love stuff like that. I love very vulnerable music. I'm even wearing their shirt, as you can see. And some of the questions they deal with are questions that I've dealt with about God and about beliefs. One of the songs that really got me hooked on them was about his father leaving when he was young, and how he really didn't have a father. This song is written to his father, asking him these questions like, did you ever love me, and did you care about us at all? And in the end, what he decides is that he still loves his father. Even though his father left him, he still wants to love him. And then he turns to God and then basically admires God's ability to love us and says, my God, what a world you love, where men bury their sons and without thought, they just walk away. More blues. Great photography, large poster-sized photography. I know this is kind of funny, but I love this album. This is one of my all-time favorites by Chopin. It's the one that I always feel weird if I have it in the player and I leave the case out because it's got these naked people on the front, but it was the 70s, what can you do? They're performed by Leonard Penario. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the piece that first got me hooked on Chopin was this Fantasy Impromptu. Again, don't know how to pronounce it, but it was so fast and so mind-boggling. I tried to learn to play it, and I only got so far. But as time went on, I started to get, especially with this record here, I got into some of his slower songs, some of his more emotional pieces, and I just was blown away by them. There's so many fascinating things that they do. They just move in and out of major and minor keys so fluidly, and they're all beautiful. I bought this album used, and I don't understand why it has these things scratched out and rewritten. I don't know if he was saying they're the wrong song titles or what. I don't know what happened. But in any case, it brought Chopin to number one of my favorite classical composers. I really like Me Without You. They've gone through a long history of changes in their style of music. Almost every album has a new style and a new focus. He's very poetic in his lyrics. I really like the artwork they always have. This one comes with lyrics like you'd find in a CD case, but lots of great artwork. And I love when vinyls themselves look interesting. This one has this kind of splotchy paint effect on it. Here's a wild one. It's kind of a remix album from Battles. People took Battles songs and remixed them. Arctic Monkeys. I bought this one because, I do really like it, but it has a lot of memories. And that's another thing about vinyls that I find meaningful, is that many of the ones that I've bought have stories or significant reasons for why I hold on to them. This one takes me back to when my wife and I, back when I was married, we went to Spokane and we stayed with one of my friends, and he had a record player, and that's actually what inspired me to get a record player. But my wife was sick and she wasn't feeling very good, and I ended up putting this Beethoven record on that my friend had, and it kind of put us to sleep in a way because it was really calm music. And later my wife got me a record player for Christmas, and I ended up finding this record at the the thrift store, and it was the same one that my friend had, and so it holds those memories. That's one of the frustrating things about losing a relationship, is that a lot of the memories were really good memories. You know, it's not all tarnished, and yet it kind of is. I don't know. But I still really like this record. I really like a lot of the music on it. Beethoven's pretty rad. This is another of my all-time favorites. Brand New, just like As Cities Burn, I actually didn't like Brand New when I first started listening to them. I went to their concert without knowing who they were or what they were about, and I couldn't get into them, and I listened and I listened and I tried because people gave them lots of praise. And they started out kind of a punk band, and I listened to one of their punk albums, and I actually started to like that a little bit. But then they had this later album that was so depressing and just morbid, and the more I listened to it, just like with As Cities Burn, something clicked, and I really got into it. And it was this very similar in that it was very raw, very emotional, and it asked a lot of the deep questions and talked about his struggling with depression, and in many ways there were things I could identify with. And then they released this album, and it's kind of a love it or hate it album. Even a lot of their hardcore fans weren't really into it, but a lot of their other fans were into it. It's just kind of a dividing album where you're on one side or the other, and I'm on the side of loving it. It's so fascinating. It's got heavy moments, it's got somber moments, it's got samples of hymns, it's angry, it's heartfelt, and it's emotional, and I really like it a lot. Smothers Brothers. I grew up with a record player because my parents had one in their bedroom, and they had a Smothers Brothers record, and I remember listening to it, and I actually learned later on that they could be a little crude in their humor, but I don't remember anything from the record that my parents had that was actually crude or sketchy. But as you can see, this one has a naked painted lady on it, so sometimes their humor was a bit crass, but they're pretty funny. This one's pretty wild. It's got lots of kind of experimental sounding percussion. This is another great example of why I love vinyl. I bought this record not knowing what it was. I just liked the sleeve. It had this open window, and then I took the record out and saw that it was this orange color. I don't know if it was Goodwill or some thrift store, but I ended up buying it just because I liked the look of it. And it's kind of classical. It's got some cool music on it, but mostly I just like the design of it. I really like Neon Bible by the Arcade Fire. The Arcade Fire is another one of those bands that kind of changes their sound with every album. Sometimes when I'm in Goodwill or a thrift store or someplace, I just like to buy a record without having any idea of what I'm getting into. And that's kind of the story with this one. I didn't know what it would sound like. I didn't know anything about it. I just thought this is going to be interesting, and so I went on an adventure. It was only like $0.25 or $1 or something like that. See, look at this. It's such a tactile experience when you buy records, and when they come in big cases like this, they're so elaborate. You have to open this and then open that and then open this and open that, and each one has its own piece of artwork drawn on it. It's crazy. I love the sketchy drawings. And only $3 from Goodwill. Thanks, Goodwill. I like Irish music sometimes. Now this one shows you that I am a sucker for the artwork of albums, because I actually bought this simply because I liked the drawings on it. And I opened it up and there was like this story inside with all these sketches, and it even had another pamphlet thing that had these watercolor drawings in it. It was bizarre. So I bought it and I took it home and I thought, well, I'll listen to see what it sounds like. And I went to pull it out and there wasn't even a record inside. It was empty. And so basically this is just a piece of artwork. I hold on to it because it's got all these drawings and I really like it, but there's nothing to listen to. Queen's cool. The Ventures. Chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. So as I mentioned, my parents had a record player and they had this record as I was growing up, and I used to listen to it all the time. I really liked it for some reason, and it's just stupid nonsense stock sounds of like scary things like a creaky bridge and shrieky cats, and I don't know why I liked it so much. I just liked scary things. So when I found it at the thrift store, I bought it for myself. I have the Sons of the Pioneers because it was the main record that my mom remembered my grandpa listening to, her dad, and she mentioned that to me. She used to sing Cool Clear Water as the song that grandpa liked. And so when I found this at the store, I had to buy it just for memory's sake. So that's about it. Vinyls are just more of an experience to me than digital or CDs. And I don't generally run around buying them willy-nilly unless they're super cheap, but if I'm actually going to spend money on a record, I generally try to get one that's super meaningful to me in some way, or it holds memories from the past, or it's a cool experience as a whole package. Which really means that my record collection isn't huge by any means. It's quite small, but I like it when I can tell stories about each one, or show it off like a piece of artwork. Anyway, that's what I've got. I'll see you guys around. Bye.